Welcome everyone to the beautiful Haynes and Carolyn Hill Stadium at Lynn Cottrell Park. One of the powerhouses in Division II softball is back for their home opener at the Hill, and what better way to ring in the new season than an action-packed weekend of softball here in Dahlonega, Georgia. It's Game 1 of the Mizuno Invitational between Lake Erie and the number 8 team in the country, North Georgia Nighthawks. Glad to have you all with us today alongside my partner, Devin Kupka, and the rest of the Nighthawk Sports Network team. Robert D. Clementi on hand for you this afternoon. A new era of UNG softball is here after the legendary head coach and two-time national champion Mike Davenport went to the University of Georgia to take a coaching position over in Athens. UNG was on the hunt to find someone to fill that void, and it didn't take long before North Georgia found their new leader in head coach Brooke O'Hare, coming over from Mississippi College, the back-to-back GSC Coach of the Year. Devin, this is a North Georgia softball program that has year-in and year-out expectations of bringing home national championships, and Coach O'Hare already looks like she has this team poised to make another run to Chattanooga.
Yeah, it's opening day. It's a new era of UNG softball, new logo, new coaching staff. It's going to be a really exciting season, Robert.
Nighthawks are 3-1 to start the season after the Gulf Shores Invitational last weekend. A very different-looking North Georgia team, but they are off to a strong start, and the vision still remains the same, to bring a national championship back to the Gold City. We should be in for an exciting weekend of softball. Again, glad to have you all with us today. Getting the start in the circle for North Georgia here in Game 1 of the Mizuno Invitational is Angelina Badalment. She pitches a strike on her first pitch here at Hill. Evens up the count at 1-1. Going up against Emma Spar, batting order here for Lake Erie. The 1-1 from Angelina is going to be outside for a ball to even up the count. And the 2-1 from Angelina. This one's going to be fouled out. Now the count will be evened up. Angelina, a senior, transferring in from Division I Bethune-Cookman in Daytona Beach, pitched over 62 innings with a 2.95 ERA last season. She had 11 games where she allowed one or fewer earned runs during the 2024 season. She's going to be a very welcome addition to this Nighthawks pitching staff. This one's going to be grounded, and the throw to Barumbi at first gets there on time for the first out. So that connection between Journey Roberts and Mary Steele Brumby, two returners on this North Georgia team, paying off for out number 1. So that's going to bring up the second baseman, the shortstop, I should say, Eckert. Eckert fouls this one right back into her dugout for an 0-1 count. Eckert, a freshman out of Oxford, Michigan, from Lake Orion High School. This Lake Erie team has a very good mix of upperclassmen and new faces to this Lake Erie softball program, trying to provide some immediate impact here. This is the season opener for Lake Erie softball. The 1-1 from Angelina is going to be outside for ball 2. And Devin, we talked about the addition that Angelina makes to this North Georgia bullpen and their pitching staff. It's a clean house here in 2025. All the pitchers from last season have graduated, and we have a couple returning players from last season that didn't get to play, maybe due to some injury from North Georgia's bullpen, Natalie Ray being one of them, who we will see at some point later today. But it's a clean sweep here in this bullpen for the Nighthawks.
Yeah, and that was one of the things you thought of after the end of the last season, is because you're having an entirely new bullpen going into this season. And what was it going to look like going into here? But we'll see as the season goes along, and so far it looks like things are right back on pace from where we left off last year, or on a similar pace from last year.
And we mentioned the powerhouse that North Georgia softball is in regards to Division II softball, and it doesn't matter even if they do clean house, whether it's on the field or in the bullpen. They are definitely going to bring in some of the most talented players across the country, as this one's going to be fouled into the crowd here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill. A great crowd that we have on hand here for the home opener for the Nighthawks. A busy weekend of softball ahead. Got a doubleheader for the Nighthawks today and a doubleheader tomorrow with Lake Erie. West Florida also on the docket for the Nighthawks later today and tomorrow. The 2-2 from Angelina is going to make the count full. Angelina, one of those utility players for the Nighthawks, had 7 strikeouts, went a perfect 3 for 3 at the plate against Union at the Gulf Shores Invitational last weekend. One of those players that can do it all. Here comes the payoff pitch. It's going to be high for ball 4. So that's going to put an early runner on first as Eckert makes her way out there to bring up the third baseman, Turkowski. Lily Turkowski, a freshman out of Fenton, Michigan. A big swing and a miss from Turkowski is going to make it an 0-1 count. The 0-1 from Angelina, and the throw to second gets it there on time. A heads-up play as Riley Moody shifted over to second, and the throw from Carly Knowles gets it there on time, and that's going to bring us to 2 outs and an 0-2 count. No more base runners on for Lake Erie. And the 0-2, strike 3 called. A big swing and a miss as Angelina picks up her first strikeout here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill Stadium. Nighthawks leave Lake Erie off the board in the top of the first. Home half of the first coming up, where Sydney Reeves is going to lead things off for us when we come back on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
No matter how you connect, ETC delivers fast, reliable internet and secure, powerful Wi-Fi choices for your home. For intense gaming, easy sharing, and buffer-free streaming on every device all at once. With local experts ready to help. Connect to faster internet. Connect to awesome Wi-Fi. Connect to now. Call or visit etcnow.com to upgrade your internet today.
The road to national championships runs through NCAA.com. And whether you follow one college team or all of them, it's never been easier to get the content you want with NCAA.com, the home of college sports.
Back with you here on the Nighthawk Sports Network for a beautiful day for softball here in the Gold City of Dahlonega. Clouds have started to clear out a little bit. Sun is shining. Perfect timing for day 1 of the Mizuno Invitational here at the Hill. Nighthawks kept Lake Erie off the board in the top of the first. A strikeout to end the top of the first, and it's going to be Sydney Reeves leading off this inning for North Georgia, and it certainly did not take long for her to make a statement with this Nighthawk softball program. Named the first PBC Player of the Week this season at the Gulf Shores Invitational. She went 8 for 17 at the plate, a pair of doubles, 4 RBIs, 4 runs scored. She also had a home run as well, which came on her first at-bat as a Nighthawk.
Yeah, how about that? Transferring schools, first at-bat with your new school. Home run immediately. It's got a lot of potential here with North Georgia.
She also had 4 runs she scored last weekend. One of those 4 runs, the game winner against Florida Tech, quickly establishing herself as a force to be reckoned with in the Peach Belt Conference this season. And the first pitch that she sees is going to be a ball from number 17, Addison Nugent. the freshman out of Walled Lake, Michigan. We mentioned for Lake Erie, lots of freshmen and new faces on this roster for the Storm. Reeves evens up the count at 1-1 after that foul ball. We're going to have a quick little discussion over in the circle. Reeves, the junior transfer from Montevallo, was one of the best batters in the Gulf South Conference. Batted above .355 in her 2 seasons with the program. She had 18 home runs, 57 RBIs. She only struck out 19 times. And that has been a consistent with this North Georgia softball program. Is very rarely do you see players walking back into the dugout after a plate appearance. They are just one of the hardest teams in the Peach Belt Conference year in and year out to keep off base. Looks like the count's going to change to 2-0. The 2-0 to Reeves. Again outside. Reeves has got Nugent right where she wants her right now. The 3-0, and that's going to be ball number 4. Reeves wanted to make her earn it, but she's able to get on first in her first plate appearance here at the Hill. That's going to bring up the second baseman, Jenna Miles, highly accoladed freshman out of Jeff Davis High School in Hazelhurst. About 4.5 hours south of here, Hazelhurst, Georgia. Takes one upstairs for ball 1. Miles, a 3-time All-State and 4-time All-Region player with the Yellow Jackets. Region Player of the Year. Won a GHSA 2A state championship as well. She's up in the count, 1-0, takes the pitch. Reeves now in a bit of a pickle, but she takes care of that easily, getting to second, and that puts an early runner in scoring position for North Georgia. And again, this goes back to the point of it being so hard to keep base runners off the pads for North Georgia. Being in this situation early could be costly for Lake Erie. Reeves got some speed as well over there at second. But the count's now 2-1 for Miles back at the plate. And the 2-1. Again, outside. That was a good-looking pitch there from Nugent, but it's going to push the count to 3-1. And the home plate up having another conversation here with the dugout for Lake Erie. May have wanted an explanation on the zone for that last pitch. And so does Nugent, it looks like, as the three of them are meeting just outside of the circle to have a chat. Lake Erie bringing the Storm a long way to Dahlonega from Paynesville, Ohio, 11 hours and 700 miles north of us. We see that a lot early in the season where, you'll have teams from all over the country play each other. Once we get into, February, March, and April, that's when we'll start seeing the Peach Belt Conference teams. But you really get a taste of what the rest of the country has to offer here in these early goings of the season. This one's going to drop in left field. And the first run is up on the board here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill as Reeves crosses home plate and Miles brings her home. Nighthawks lead this one early, 1-0.
Yeah, North Georgia bringing the fire here early, and that's just something we saw commonly for most of the season last year. And there's a lot of new playmakers on this softball lineup, especially you go back to 1 year ago. it's really a totally different lineup.
Lots of fun and exciting new players on this North Georgia lineup. As Natalie Ray pops this one up into center field, and that's going to be caught by Spar for out number 1. A short-lived plate appearance for Natalie Ray, who makes her debut as a Nighthawk here in this game. We'll get to talk about a little bit more about her on her next plate appearance, but again, nice to see her that she's healthy and she's ready to contribute to this North Georgia team.
Yeah, and it's kind of been a long time coming. She didn't play at all, as you mentioned, didn't play at all last year due to injury, but coming from Ole Miss, a D1 school, excited to see what she can offer for the Nighthawks.
Now batting for the Nighthawks, a fan favorite, Mary Seal Brumby, the first baseman in her 3rd season with the Nighthawks. One of the now longest tenured players on this team. Was a part of that 2023 National Championship squad. The 1-0 to Brumby, a big swing, just tips this one foul, so it's going to push the count to 1-1. Brumby, a member of the 2024 PBC All-Tournament team. Takes the 1-1 just outside of the zone from Nugent to push the count to 2-1. Some of you on social media may know Mary Seal as Hair by Seal. It may even hear the Hair by Seal chants coming from the North Georgia dugout. Takes the 2-1. Brumby pops this one up into foul territory. Takes a bounce off of the left side dugout. Nighthawks in the third base dugout for this matchup. Lake Erie over there in the first base dugout. Counts all evened up for Brumby at 2-2. Takes the 2-2, slams this one into left center field. It drops. And this is going to be another run up on the board. Back-to-back runs on back-to-back base hits for the Nighthawks as Miles comes home and the big bat of Brumby pays off.
Yeah, and that's something we saw Brumby come into the spotlight last year. We had some injuries in the lineup and inserted into the starting lineup, and then we saw her force be known out there, and there we go. North Georgia back up on the board, and it's good to see this after such a devastating loss last year in the Super Regional here in Dahlonega.
Yeah, the end of the 2024 season didn't really pan out as North Georgia wanted it to. Losing in the Super Regional to Lenore Rhine, had 2 games to try to close that one out in 2024, just couldn't quite do it to punch their ticket to Orlando, Florida. That's going to bring up the catcher, Carly Knowles, and her first plate appearance here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill. Takes the 1-0, slams this one into left, and that is going to hit the wall. Brumby gets home standing up, and that's back-to-back-to-back base hits for the Nighthawks. Brumby comes home, and that's going to be a 3-0 lead for North Georgia in the bottom of the first as Knowles adds to the hit totals here for the Nighthawks.
Yeah, North Georgia continuing to put it on Lake Erie here early in this one. You've got 3 different batters. 3 runs scored early, so North Georgia off to a really good start here.
You got Caitlin Johnson, who is set to make her first plate appearance this afternoon, but not before Lake Erie has a little chat in the circle to talk some things over. North Georgia battling early here. And we mentioned that the Storm are opening their 2025 season here in Dahlonega. It was the same case last year. They opened the 2024 season against North Georgia in the North Georgia Leadoff Classic, and that's kind of been a little bit of a disadvantage for Lake Erie the last 2 seasons. With this being their season opener, the Nighthawks already have a handful of games under their belt before this one to get into game rhythm. They had the Gulf Shores Invitational last weekend. Last year, they were 10 games into the season before Lake Erie played their first game. So they were really able to sort of figure some things out and get up to game speed. Lake Erie having to do that right now against the number 8 team in the country.
Yeah, and it's always a tough task when you're a team, maybe an unranked team, going up against one of the best teams in the nation. It's always a good test to see where your program is at, where they can rank themselves against a ranked opponent.
This is going to be fouled out of play by Johnson. And we mentioned we saw Lake Erie come to the Hill last season, and they kept every game at the North Georgia Classic very competitive. Weren't able to come away with a win that weekend, but I remember those games, every single one Lake Erie was never out of. They had to play some tough competition as well, as this is going to be popped up to first, and it's going to drop from Johnson. And this is going to be another run-up on the board. Nighthawks pouring it on in the bottom of the first. Now a 4-0 lead here for the Home Hawks.
Yeah, and it's been like, 3 doubles in a row from Nighthawks, 3 consecutive at-bats, and they're on fire right now. And yeah, and if you're Lake Erie, you're starting to put yourself in a big hole early in this contest, and it's just, you're going to have to straighten some things out if you want to climb yourself back into this one.
It's going to be the veteran Riley Moody up to bat. She fouls this one out of play, and over the bullpen, they're on the right side of the screen. And you mentioned it's just been constant doubles for North Georgia here in this one. Most likely, if the Nighthawks are able to get a base hit, they're going for 2 bags. One of the leaders in the country last season in doubles, and I think that's going to be another trend that we see here in 2025. Moody's going to take ball 1. A familiar face to this Nighthawk program, now in her second year as the starting shortstop for UNG after transferring in from Wallace State. Moody takes the 1-1 way upstairs from Nugent to go up in the count 2-1. Moody really started to come alive in the Peach Belt Conference tournament last season, was one of the most consistent hitters for the Nighthawks in the postseason. The 2-1 to Moody. This one is upstairs and gets away. That's going to put a base runner on third in Johnson, as the catcher Gonzalez was unable to corral that pitch in. So now another base hit from Moody will easily score the speedster Johnson over there at third. And the 3-1 to Moody. Watches ball 4 go past her there. Runners are on the corners. Still just 1 out in the bottom of the first inning as well.
Yeah, now you're at the bottom of the batting. You're getting towards the bottom of the batting lineup for North Georgia. There's a very, very good chance, I think, Robert, that they could potentially, you could see Sydney Reeves back up to bat in this inning.
They're down to Angelina Badalament, who we just mentioned, a utility player for the Nighthawks. We mentioned that in the top of the first inning. Saw her pitching the throw to first. Nobody home as Riley Moody steals second. Now 2 runners in scoring position for Angelina. We talked about her versatility, both up to bat and in the circle. Takes the 1-0, slams this one into center, but it's going to be caught by Spar. But that sac fly is going to score another run as the speedster Johnson comes home. That's 5 runs up in the bottom of the first inning for the Nighthawks.
Yeah, North Georgia, that was a big out for Lake Erie, because the next fly out will end this inning, but North Georgia already up 5 runs to none, and we're just in the bottom of the first.
A runner still in scoring position for the Nighthawks with Angelina over there on second. And Tegan Laval Masonette up to bat here for North Georgia. these base runners for the Nighthawks also been very aggressive here in the bottom of the first inning. A lot of them taking those risks, taking those chances to try to steal an extra bag, and it's paid off here in this inning. The 1-0 to Laval Masonette inside for a 1-1 count. Tegan in her second year with the Nighthawks, was a Peach Belt Conference Freshman of the Week last season in March. Started 22 of 40 games last season. The 1-1 to Tegan, and the throw to third does not get there on time, and a nice adjustment there that's Riley Moody on third. She was able to avoid the tag. Makes things even easier for Tegan.
Yeah, North Georgia's been very aggressive against Lake Erie so far in terms of trying to go out and steal bases. And they're really just laying it on them right now.
This North Georgia team has a lot of speed that they've shown early here in this game. The 1-1 to Tegan grounds this to second, and the throw to first gets it there on time, but not before the Nighthawks pour on 5 runs in the bottom of the first inning. It's all Nighthawks to open up this game, the opening game of the Mizuno Invitational here in Dahlonega. We'll see how Lake Erie responds when we come back. You're watching North Georgia Softball on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
That's a timeout on betting. It completely changed the game, and you didn't even notice. Let me break it down for you. Betting ads are applying full court pressure and getting you to play the game. Many of you are falling for it and losing big money. Addiction is happening in some more than others. Now players are getting harassed by bettors. And we all know that's not how the game is won. So it's on us to be good teammates and draw the line to stay ahead of betting consequences.
At the heart of America's gold rush stands a beacon of leadership, tradition, and excellence. A university that has always led the way, forging an environment for broad-based academics, world-class athletics, and tomorrow's military leaders. The University of North Georgia. Learning and leadership. Passion and preparation. Transformation and tradition. We are the University of North Georgia.
Back with you here on the Nighthawk Sports Network. Nighthawks lead this one big early, 5-0, as we head to the top of the second inning. And the Storm have some work to do here against Angelina and this Nighthawks fielding. After a walk was drawn by Sydney Reeves to lead off that bottom of the first inning, it was just a hit entourage for the Nighthawks. Miles, Brumby, Knowles, and Johnson all recording hits in that inning. All those hits with an RBI attached to it. And from there on out, it just looked like they could not be stopped in that inning. So we'll see what Lake Erie can do here with number 10, Peyton Powers, the junior out of La Mirada, California. Fouls this one back into the dugout to push the count to 1-2. We mentioned this being the season opener for Lake Erie. Definitely can see them still trying to work out some of the kinks in their game here in this one. Having to make some adjustments. Counts now all evened up at 2-2. And the 2-2 pitch. This one's going to be grounded to Moody at short. Throw to Brumby at first. Gets it there on time for out number 1. There are a lot of returners for this North Georgia infield. You got Journey Roberts over there at third, who didn't start at third last year. That position went to Gracie Mixon for a handful of years. But you got Riley Moody and Brumby over there at short and at first. So a lot of chemistry here between this infield for the Nighthawks. first baseman Garcia up to bat for the first time this afternoon. CJ Garcia, senior out of Garden Grove, California, and Fountain Valley High School. Another foul ball. This one's going to push the count to 0-2. Garcia last season batting .224. Pretty consistent starter for this Lake Erie team. Started 32 of 30 appearances. Also one of the more consistent hitters for the Storm last season. 19 hits in her 85 at-bats. And she takes strike 3. Good-looking pitch there from Angelina. Gives her her second strikeout of the afternoon.
Yeah, North Georgia just cooking really on both sides. On the offense and defensive side. The hitting and the pitching just all in sync right now.
And that's going to bring the pitcher Nugent up to bat. A couple utility players up against each other. Pitcher on pitcher battle as Angelina pitches one down the middle for strike 1. No base runners on for Lake Erie. The 0-1 from Angelina outside for ball 1. Angelina leading the team with strikeouts this season. She had 10 in her first 11 innings on the mound this season. Coming into this weekend, she's already added a couple here in this matchup against Lake Erie. This one's going to be a ball outside to push the count to 2-1. Angelina gets the signal, delivers the 2-1. This one is grounded but fouled over there into right. We got 2s across the board, 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs here in the top of the first. Possibly getting the double peace signs from the home plate ump. Yes, we do, and it's a 2-2 count. And the 2-2. Good-looking pitch there from Angelina, but just a tad low to fill this count up. Got the left fielder, Thomas, on deck for Lake Erie. The payoff pitch. This one's hit right to Brumby at first. An easy play there for the Nighthawks, as that's going to be out number 3. Lake Erie still not on the board as we head to the bottom of the second. Nighthawks still lead this one 5-0. We'll see if they can replicate that amazing first inning when we come back. You're watching North Georgia Softball on the Nighthawk Sports Network. Back with you here on the Nighthawk Sports Network for Game 1 of the 2025 Mizuno Invitational. And Lake Erie making a pitching substitution early in this one. Now in the circle for the Storm is number 9, Alexa Bailey, the righty sophomore out of Paynesville, Ohio, and Harvey High School, making her first appearance of the 2025 season here in Dahlonega. It'll be interesting to see how really all the teams that we talk about this weekend attack the pitching game. Got a lot of softball to play. 4 games each for each team, and you want to try to, I think, limit how much you are stretching into this bullpen for all the teams here this weekend.
Yeah, that's a thing too. But at the same time, you want to stay competitive as well.
Absolutely.
And, you're kind of in an odd situation here if you're Lake Erie, because you went through the whole batting lineup. If you're North Georgia, they went through the whole batting lineup, got 5 runs out of that. And now they're starting at the top again. Do you want to put the same pitcher out there to face him when giving up 5 runs in the first inning? In softball, a little bit different from baseball. You've also got run rules in effect as well. So North Georgia is only about 3 runs away from a run rule, which would be implemented after the 5th inning. So really that's giving you less time to work with, especially on the offensive side of things, to get something going. So I would imagine that this is probably a much-needed change here for Lake Erie to stay in this game, at least extend it in some way or prevent the bleeding that happened in the first inning.
And you brought up baseball just a moment ago as well. Typically, when you see a pitcher taken off the mound in baseball, you don't see him again. But here in softball, really anything can happen. We've seen, plenty of times before a pitcher get pulled and then maybe a few innings later they come back, or, if it's a doubleheader, we'll see them later on in the afternoon. So definitely a little bit of a different strategy when it comes to softball as compared to baseball. The third base ump having a conversation with head coach Brooke O'Hare over there at third. Coach O'Hare named the 3rd softball coach back in September of last year, coming over from another Division II school in Mississippi College, as Reeves takes strike 1. You mentioned in the opener, Coach O'Hare, the back-to-back Gulf South Conference Coach of the Year, was the winningest head coach in program history with over 530 wins. This one's going to be upstairs, even up the count at 1-1. In her 18 seasons with Mississippi College, half of them, she led the team to the NCAA tournament with a pair of super regional berths. This one's going to be outside, so the count's going to be 2-1.
And Sydney Reeves, one of those players coming from the Gulf South Conference. Brooke O'Hare able to identify talent from within her own conference, and then bringing it over here to Dahlonega. Yeah,
Coach O'Hare has mentioned that, as soon as she saw Reeves in the transfer portal, she knew that she had to hop on that immediately and bring the talented player in Reeves over here to the Gold City. As she takes ball 4, and that's now back-to-back walks that Reeves has drawn here at the top of the lineup for North Georgia. Another consistent element about this North Georgia softball program is their discipline at the plate. They're not going to take a whole lot of pitches that they don't like, and Reeves has shown there she's got the big bat, but she's not going to, like we said, take a pitch that she's not the biggest fan of, and makes things easier for Jenna Miles, who's now up to bat here for North Georgia. Puts a runner on first. Same exact situation to what we saw in the bottom of the first inning. As Reeves makes a break for it to second. That ball took a bounce in front of Pollock. So Reeves is able to get there well on time. And that now puts the runner in scoring position for Miles. Miles hits this one off of the glove of the pitcher. Throw to first. Doesn't get there on time. Didn't see Reeves make a break for it to second. I think the right idea there, could have been out at third. Instead puts 2 base runners on for Natalie Ray.
This is a player we talked about it, Robert, in the first inning. Player we've been looking forward to seeing. Didn't play all last year.
The junior out of Covington, Georgia, transferred to North Georgia before the start of the 2024 season, transferred from Division I school Ole Miss. We haven't been able to see any of Natalie Ray here as a Nighthawk until today. has unfortunately missed a lot of time due to injury. But like we mentioned, it's great to see her back and healthy and ready to contribute to this North Georgia team. The 1-1 to Ray. She grounds this into right field. And Natalie Ray's first hit as a Nighthawk is going to result in a run, as she's going to be tagged out. A bit of a pickle here at third. But Miles is able to get back to third safely. Nighthawks add a run up on the board to extend their lead to 6-0, courtesy of Natalie Ray.
Yeah, and that's a great, now it's her second at bat with North Georgia, but still, to have that happen, bat a run in.
That brings Brumby back up to bat with a runner on third. And the big bat of Brumby. This is going to be a big matchup here for Lake Erie and Bailey. One's across the board for Brumby. She takes one outside for ball one. A run, a hit, and an RBI for the third-year player on this North Georgia team. And the 1-1, this one is going to stay fair off the bat of Brumby. Uses her speed to get to first. And that's going to be another run up on the board here for North Georgia. Brumby's going to take advantage of that, get 2 bags out of it. Nighthawks are pouring it on. That's now a 7-0 lead here, and we're not even in the third inning, Devin.
Yeah, and the bleeding continues for Lake Erie. And you just had some really big at-bats from North Georgia today. Really, everybody's hitting at a high cylinder for the Nighthawks. And you're seeing that right now, 7-0 lead for North Georgia. Clearly in control of this one.
And that hit from Brumby took an awkward spin off the bat. Didn't even get a foot away from the third base line, and somehow Brumby was able to get 2 bags out of it. That's going to bring Carly Knowles, the catcher, back up to bat. And of course we know all these players have very decorated high school careers with their softball teams, but Carly Knowles was just absolutely dominant in high school, won 4 state championships with the Hornets at Westfield High School. She hit .567 as a junior and was the 2023-2024 GIAA Class AAA Player of the Year. The 3-0 to Knowles as she grounds this one to short. Throw to first. Does not get there on time, and Brumby gets to third. Runners are going to be on the corners with just 1 out. Nighthawks still working in this inning. We'll see what Caitlin Johnson can do now with Knowles on first and Brumby on third.
And one of the things I'm noticing from Lake Erie is just a lot of the throws are just not getting there on time. A lot of routine type plays are just not, they're just not being made by Lake Erie right now, and it's showing right now. So they're down 7-0, but credit to North Georgia for executing on a high level right now, putting it to Lake Erie.
This is going to drop in left field. It's a Nighthawk entourage in this one, an 8-0 lead as Johnson records her second hit of the afternoon. So a very quick plate appearance there from Johnson is going to bring up Riley Moody. So we got Knowles on second, Johnson on first. This is going to be belted into center field, back at the wall. It's going to be caught by Spar. That's going to advance runners into scoring position here for the Nighthawks. That's going to bring Angelina Badalaman back up to bat. And it looks like we're going to have some discussions in the infield here with Lake Erie and the umps. Lake Erie wanting a couple of explanations here in this game. And it looks like the infield umps are going to talk things over. Couple of head coaches making their debuts with their new teams this afternoon. For Lake Erie, head coach Shannon Schaub in her first year with the Storm was the head coach over at Hiram last season. And her pitching staff had the most strikeouts out of anyone in the North Coast Athletic Conference.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what Schaub can do with this Lake Erie team. Coming off a really rough season last year, only winning 3 games, went 3-37 last year, and not winning a home game as well. So, you got to imagine getting some new blood in there, just kind of re-spark that softball program. He's really just had a tough stretch of it as of late.
And sometimes that's all you need. So Angelina still awaiting her first pitch on this at-bat. Takes a ball from Bailey. And the 1-0 to Angelina, again outside. Still these base runners for the Nighthawks being uber aggressive. And Johnson over there on second. She had an open bag over there at third. It's a really good chance she would go for the steal. The 1-1 to Angelina is going to be inside. Puts her down in the count, 1-2. And the 1-2 outside for a count. Angelina having, I think, some flashes of a previous North Georgia player in Sophie Mooney. One of those utility players that can really do it all. But she strikes out on this plate appearance. Nighthawks pour on 3 more runs to go up 8-0 in the bottom of the second inning. We're headed to the top of the third, where Lake Erie will try to mount their comeback when we come back on the Nighthawk Sports Network. Back with you here on the Nighthawk Sports Network, top of the third inning. Nighthawks are off to a hot start, up 8-0 here in this game. Could not be stopped on the bases. Nighthawks with 9 hits in this one to lead 8-0. Drawn 3 walks as well. Only been struck out once, which came on that last plate appearance from Angelina, who's now in the circle for North Georgia. North Georgia's fielding's really been able to take care of business as well. This is the first plate appearance for Sydney Thomas in this one. the 8-hole hitter for Lake Erie. The Storm have not been able to make it through their lineup just yet. Taylor, the freshman out of Plymouth, Michigan. And the 1-1 from Angelina. This one's going to be fouled. Landing right in front of the Argos for West Florida. Walking behind the stands here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill, getting ready for their couple of games today against North Georgia and Lake Erie. The 1-2 from Angelina, and she records another strikeout. This is her third of the game. She's been dealing in this one, Devin.
Yeah, we've seen really on the mound for North Georgia today, just a really stellar performance against Lake Erie today, and just a really good start to the season. I know they had that first loss of the Gulf Shores Invitational last week, but North Georgia has seemed to really bounce back from that.
They're off to a 3-1 start to the season. Like you mentioned, they dropped that first game against West Alabama, but they steered the ship back in the right direction, rattled off 3 straight wins against Florida Tech, Berry, and Union after that. The 1-0 from Angelina is going to be outside for ball 2. Kai Mortensen, the freshman out of Williams, Arizona, and Williams High School, up to bat here for Lake Erie. And the 2-0, this one's going to be fouled back towards the net to push the count to 2-1. Not only is this the first game of the 2025 season for Lake Erie, North Georgia's already had a handful of games to get up to game speed. But like we mentioned, you have a lot of freshmen in this starting lineup for Lake Erie as well, looking to contribute early. This is a tough first matchup for them going up against one of the best programs in Division II softball in North Georgia. Counts now all evened up at 2-2. And the 2-2 from Angelina, a big swing and a miss. Angelina dealing in this game. One of those players that can do it all, gets her 4th strikeout this afternoon. Gives us 2 outs in the top of the 3rd. That's going to bring up the catcher, Gonzalez. Takes strike 1. Jasmine Gonzalez, a senior out of Orange, California. Takes one upstairs from Angelina for ball 1. Lake Erie also pulling in a lot of talent from a lot of different places as well. We see with a lot of these Peach Belt Conference teams especially pulling in, a lot of talented players that are from either in-state or around a lot of these southeast states, but Lake Erie pulling in talent from just about anywhere. Throw to first, gets there well on time for out number 3. Lake Erie still without a run in this game. Nighthawks 8 as we head to the bottom of the 3rd inning as they try to extend this lead when we come back on the Nighthawk Sports Network. with you here on the Nighthawk Sports Network. An 8-run lead here for North Georgia in the bottom of the third inning. And it's going to be number 8, Tegan Laval Masonette, to lead things off here for the Nighthawks in the home half of this inning, the 9-hole hitter in this lineup for North Georgia. A familiar face to this Nighthawk program, especially if you tuned in last season. Tegan had a few really big-time plays for North Georgia last season. Didn't start out the year as a consistent starter, but really just grinded her way up and worked her way into the starting lineup for the Nighthawks in 2024. Looks like she's going to be a staple here for Coach O'Hare in 2025. Tegan takes a strike from Alexa Bailey, still in the circle for Lake Erie. This one's going to be called ball 1. Laval Masonette had her best game of the season last time out against Union, went 2 for 4 at the plate with 3 RBIs. And the 1-1 to Laval Masonette. This one's off the glove of the shortstop. Eckert couldn't corral that one in, and Laval Masonette records her first hit here at the Hill in 2025.
It's crazy. 3 innings, 3 times we've seen Sydney Reeves up at the plate. And it seems like almost every Nighthawk in the batting lineup today has gotten a hit against this Lake Erie squad.
And surprisingly, Reeves without one, but like you mentioned, she hasn't had to have one. And she gets her first there up the first base line, and it looks like Coach O'Hare is going to wave home Laval Masonette. A triple for Sydney Reeves on her first hit here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill. What a way to get your first one here in front of the Nighthawk faithful for Reeves.
Yeah, big triple by Reeves and making her impact known here. As North Georgia continues to pile it on right now. Up 9-0 over this Lake Erie program.
Reeves had a big smile on her face after that one. It's going to bring Jenna Miles up to bat. This one is going to be dropped in left field. Taylor couldn't corral that one in, and so Reeves is going to take advantage of that to come home. That's going to be an error on Lake Erie's part. Nighthawks now in double-digit runs, up 10-0 over the Storm.
Yeah, this is big for North Georgia now, having an offensive show out like they are today. Pretty much everybody top down from the batting lineup is really contributing to this one.
Natalie Ray takes strike 1. And the 0-1 is going to be outside for ball 1. We mentioned in the opener, this is a very different looking North Georgia team on the field. 10 seniors graduated in 2024. Players that were national champions, some of the best to ever wear a North Georgia uniform, graduating last season. But this team has currently constructed, has a lot of really exciting young pieces as well as some transfers that bring a ton of experience and a ton of talent to UNG, and we're seeing both on full display this afternoon. And the 2-1 to Natalie is going to be outside for ball 3. And Reeves using her speed, Miles using her speed to slide into third easily there. Making the life of the DH, Natalie Ray, a bit easier. And the 3-1, that's going to be just outside for ball 4. Looked like a good pitch from Bailey. But that is going to put runners on the corners here for Brumby.
Brumby so far perfect at the plate for North Georgia. See if that streak will continue here.
2 for 2 at the plate with 2 runs scored as well. And Ray is able to get to second, putting 2 runners in scoring position here for the Nighthawks. A lot of stolen bases in this game here for North Georgia. The 1-0 to Brumby is going to be outside. Brumby really became a consistent starter last season. Had 101 at-bats, a .347 batting average. Had a lot of big-time highlight plays last season. A walk-off base hit against Alabama Huntsville, one of the best teams in the country. Takes the 2-0 and right into the glove of the first baseman Garcia for out number 1. It's going to keep runners on second and third here for the Nighthawks. That's going to bring Carly Knowles back up to bat, another Nighthawk who is a perfect 2 for 2 in this game. She belts this one into right. Looks like it's going to stay fair, but it's going to be dropped. But it's going to be called a foul ball by the home plate ump. Powers was over there to try to make the diving catch, and that one just fouled on the right field line and ended up dropping foul, and so Knowles is going to get another crack at it here. So the 0-1 to Knowles is going to be fouled. Now an 0-2 count. As Bailey gets the signal. Delivers the 0-2. This one upstairs almost over the head of Knowles to make the count 0-2. After winning a national championship in 2023, Nighthawks followed that up in 2024 with a 52-13 season last year. The 1-2 to Knowles. She belts this one into right, and it's going to drop. And that's going to be 2 more runs up on the board here for North Georgia. Pouring it on as this one landed right in front of Powers. 4 runs in the bottom of the third pushes this to a 12-0 lead for the number 8 team in the country.
Yeah, North Georgia's just really putting it to Lake Erie, and some of that, as good as North Georgia is, if you're Lake Erie, there's just a lot of fielding mistakes you've got to clean up.
Definitely leaving a lot of
drops, just a lot of drops.
A lot of runs up on the board. This one going to be a routine play for Lake Erie. It's going to advance a runner to third. Puts 2 outs up on the board. Another short plate appearance there for Johnson. We'll see if Riley Moody can start a 2-out rally here for North Georgia. Moody has quickly become a veteran presence for a team with a lot of new faces and a lot of younger players. Slams one into left, and the veteran keeps this 2-out rally alive. She's going to be out there at second, but not before the Nighthawks leave the inning with a 12-0 lead. We'll step aside for another short commercial break right here on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
NCAA athletes don't just compete, they make history. Representing our nation with pride and excellence, they bring home the hardware. Our college campuses serve as training grounds for the next generation of stars. Catch tomorrow's Olympians and Paralympians on the NCAA Championship stage today.
In NCAA Division II, student athletes leave a lasting impression on their communities. That's because Division II student athletes want to make a difference and truly be part of their surrounding communities. Through community engagement, thousands of student athletes from various backgrounds interact with community members who view them as role models. This interaction leaves a positive and perhaps even life-changing impression on all those involved. In Division II, we rise to the opportunity and make community engagement ours.
Today's broadcast of the Nighthawk Sports Network is brought to you by Bryan Properties, the leader in commercial real estate along the Georgia 400 corridor and a proud sponsor of North Georgia Athletics. Nighthawks dominating here in the first 4 innings, a 12-0 lead for the number 8 team in the country. And Coach O'Hare makes a pitching substitution. Now in the circle for the Nighthawks is number 33, Caroline Connor. Connor in her first season with the Nighthawks after transferring over from Division I College of Charleston. Making her first appearance here in front of the Nighthawk faithful at the Hill. And her first pitch here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill is going to be a ball. She had a phenomenal freshman season, the CAA Rookie of the Year. Had over 100 strikeouts, 3 shutouts, and a 2.95 ERA during her freshman season. This is going to be fouled out of play. She was on pace to have another incredible season. She had an injury that kept her out for most of her sophomore season. So it looks like she's back and healthy and ready to go here with her new team. A big swing and a miss there is going to make it a 1-2 count. Lake Erie back at the top of their lineup with Spar. And the 1-2 from Connor. This is going to take a bounce into the dirt for ball 2. And the 2-2 from Connor. This is going to be fouled out of play, so Spar will get another crack at it here. Spar, one of the biggest returners to this Lake Erie team, led the Storm in batting average last year at .345, had 9 home runs and 20 RBIs, both of those numbers also leading Lake Erie as she belts one into left field. Got all of that one, but it's going to be fouled. It's going to be another 2-2 pitch coming up here from Connor. Spar, one of the most consistent players for this Lake Erie program. Takes the 2-2, and Caroline Connor gets her first strikeout at the Hill. And again, the fielding here for North Georgia has just been sensational. We've talked a lot about, their dominance up to bat, but they've really been really special here, fielding as well. That's just the second plate appearance for Spar in this one. Now the second for Eckert here, as Lake Erie's only been through the lineup one time. This is going to be belted into center field, but a routine play for the Peach Belt Conference Player of the Week in Reeves gives us out number 2. That's going to bring up Lily Turkowski, struck out by Angelina last time she was up to bat. Another disadvantage for Lake Erie in this one is they've only been through the lineup one time, and this being the top of the lineup second plate appearance here in this one, they've had to see 2 different pitchers in this game from North Georgia. A big swing there from Turkowski, but a miss is going to make the count 1-2.
Yeah, and that just kind of makes things more difficult in a way, because North Georgia You know, Lake Erie, you're down 13 runs to North Georgia, and there's just you're not going to be able to establish, any familiariness with the pitcher when basically North Georgia, they switch their pitcher as soon as you get to the top of the lineup, and it's not due to the fact that, on the mound that Baltimore gave up a bunch of runs or anything. It's just that it's time to put her to rest because the game really is out of hand for Lake Erie at this point. So, and Caroline Connor, she's doing a good job. First batter she faced, struck her out. So see what she has in store for the rest of the game.
Nice looking pitch there from Connor. Down the middle, gets back in the count. She fills it up. And the payoff pitch. This is hit well into left field, and it's going to be caught. A sensational play over there in left field from Johnson as she makes the grab for out number 3. What a play there from Caitlin Johnson to end this inning as we head to the home half of the 4th. Nighthawks lead this one big, 13-0, as we step aside for another short commercial break on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through.
The whole day, every day, we're thinking about one thing, Georgia's hearts. While you're busy being you, we're working to make Georgia Heart Institute Georgia's #1 heart program. One of only 2 programs in the state offering robotic heart surgery as an alternative to open heart surgery. So whether you live in Atlanta or Athens, in the country or in town, the future of heart care is here for you today. We do it all because Georgia's hearts are always on our minds.
That old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind.
Georgia Heart Institute.
Dahlonega Resort and Vineyard is a quick drive from Atlanta, but a world apart from the noise and sprawl. Escape to the North Georgia mountains for your next weekend adventure, or book your next corporate outing at Dahlonega Resort and Vineyard today. As we head to the home half of the 4th inning, it's been all Nighthawks here in this one, dominating with a 13-0 lead over Lake Erie. And the Storm moving on to their 3rd pitcher here in their opening game of the 2025 season. They're going with the sophomore Sydney Murray, righty in Ohio in Chardon High School, making her first appearance here in 2025 for Lake Erie. Was a part of the pitching staff last season. Posted a 9.18 ERA. Made 14 appearances last year. Started the 2nd most games out of anybody on the pitching staff for Lake Erie in 2024. Had 9 starts. A number behind Carly Rowland, who started 20 games last year. Also the 2nd most strikeouts on the team. Sydney Murray did with 21 in her 39 innings of work during her freshman campaign. Nighthawks making some substitutions into their batting order as well, with Clara Cheery up to bat for the first time here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill.
Yeah, and when it comes to this point of the game, you probably start experimenting with different batters in the lineup. In softball, different from baseball, you're able to sub in and out players.
Cherry grounds this one into center field as she keeps the hits going here for North Georgia, the 13th of the game to match their 13 runs.
Just a complete onslaught by North Georgia today, taking advantage of any situation that they see.
That's going to bring Caitlin Johnston up to bat here for the Nighthawks, making her first plate appearance of the season at the Hill. Another veteran on this North Georgia team, Caitlin Johnston, some of you may know her as KJ as well, was a part of that 2023 national championship team for the Nighthawks that beat Grand Valley State back in May of 2023. She takes ball 2 outside. And Johnston, as compared to years past, her role becomes significantly more important here in her junior year. She didn't get a ton of run during the last 2 seasons. There were a lot of veterans on this North Georgia squad, and she quickly becomes a familiar face on this North Georgia program and provides, some national championship experience to this team, which is such a big advantage for Coach O'Hare in this North Georgia softball program. Johnston with a good eye takes ball 3. Junior out of Douglasville, Georgia. And the 3-1 to Johnston. Doesn't have to do too much on that plate appearance. Watches ball 4 go past her there to put runners on first and second. We're going to have another visit in the circle here for Lake Erie.
Yeah, just for the pitchers today for Lake Erie, it's just been a really tough outing. Having to go up against this high-powered offense with North Georgia. I mean, already 13 hits on the day so far. It feels like everybody that's been up to bat has at least either gotten a walk or a hit today, and it's just been really tough for Lake Erie.
Yeah, it looks like this appearance in the circle, or this meeting, I should say, in the circle, just to kind of corral the team in and say, hey, let's finish out this game strong. Like you mentioned, it is a little bit out of hand now here for Lake Erie, but just try to clean things up and try to end this game on a high note.
Just trying to get some momentum going, but it just really has not worked out. 5 runs for North Georgia in the first, 3 in the second, and then 5 in the third. It's just, it's really tough. And, you got to imagine what the team is feeling out there, too, because you're just getting bullied inning in and out. And they're just able to stifle you on both sides, pitching and hitting.
Utility player up to bat here for the Nighthawks, number 4, Ava Lunsford, sophomore out of Elberton, Georgia, transferring into this Nighthawk program from the Division I Western Kentucky. It's been her freshman season with the Hilltoppers. Grounds this one over to short, throw to third, gets there on time for the first out here in this inning. And that was a good play by the short Eckert to make the throw to third to get there on time. The right play there by this Lake Erie infield. And that's going to bring up another veteran here for the Nighthawks. Up to bat, Sadie Johnson, the catcher, the longest tenured Nighthawk with this North Georgia program. In her senior year out of Adairsville, Georgia, has been around this program for quite some time now, in her 4th season. She's been a part of some really, really special North Georgia teams. Of course, part of that national championship team back in 2023, and she belts this one into left, and it's going to be caught by Taylor for out number 2. But again, that's just another veteran presence on this North Georgia team with a lot of new faces, a lot of moving pieces, and she has just been a very consistent presence for the Nighthawks.
Yeah, and she's been, as you mentioned, part of a lot of special teams. She got to go to Denver in 2022 and then 23 to Chattanooga for the national championship, the national championship win for the Nighthawks. So she's been there, done that, seen a lot with the Nighthawks, and been there for some of the highs and then been there for some of the lows. So, very, very well experienced player on this Nighthawks squad.
Now batting for the Nighthawks, the catcher Avery Moffitt, freshman out of Franklin, North Carolina. Was a 4-time all-conference player at Franklin High School. She was one of the best high school players over there in North Carolina the last 4 years. Hit .461 as a junior with 25 RBIs. All WNC first team member and a part of the NCSCA All-District and All-State teams. As Moffitt takes ball 2, and a good job over there at first base to keep this ball in the infield, not letting the Nighthawks put another run up on the board. It's going to be a 1-1 count for Moffitt. And the 1-1 to Avery. This one's going to cut it inside for strike 2. Moffitt's mother, Penny, was also a standout athlete over there at Franklin High School. Went on to become a sensational softball player at UNC Greensboro. Moffitt takes the 1-2. This one's going to be in the dirt for ball 2. And these are the kinds of games that, of course, you want to see if you're Coach O'Hare, where you get a lot of players for the Nighthawks who are making their 2025 season debuts, and you get to get a little taste of, see what their game is made of, and see what you have deep into your team. The 2-2 to Moffitt is going to be just upstairs for ball 3. Count's going to run full. Nighthawks could potentially load the bases for the first time this afternoon.
It really just goes to show how potent they've been, not needing to load the bases to put 13 runs up on the board.
And the payoff pitch. That's going to be ball 4. And the bases are juiced for Kayla Berry, the freshman out of Ackworth, Georgia.
It's going to be a big moment for Berry at the plate. Making her third at-bat for North Georgia. Or excuse me, her second at-bat for the Nighthawks this season.
She's had a couple of appearances this year, did some fielding as well. Played against Florida Tech and Union University last weekend at the Gulf Shores Invitational. This is her first plate appearance here at the Hill. Had an outstanding career at East Paulding High School with the Raiders. Had back-to-back-to-back seasons batting .378 or better. Two-time All-State, two-time State All-Star, and All-Region selection. Had a .512 batting average during her junior year. And the 0-1 to Berry is going to be low for ball 1. And the 1-1 to Berry again outside. Pushes the count to 2-1. Berry up in the count, takes the pitch. This one sneaks inside for strike 2. Nice looking pitch there from Murray to get right back into this count.
It'd be nice to get for Lake Erie to get a strikeout here, get themselves out of a hole and prevent any runs from being scored for the first time this game.
This one's going to be ball 3 outside. Yeah, this would definitely be probably the biggest play here for Lake Erie in regards to their fielding in this game to leave the bases juiced. Coming out of this inning with 2 outs. Will be a big play for them. But Barry's now up in the count. And the payoff pitch from Murray. Good eye there from Barry. Takes ball 4. Nighthawks add another run up on the board to go up 14-0. Bases are still loaded. The Nighthawks just really showing off why they are one of the most disciplined teams in the entire country when it comes to their plate appearances.
Looks like another substitution coming in for the Nighthawks, and makes you wonder if we're even going to even see any of the starters back in.
Got a feeling that as long as this inning is going to go on, Coach O'Hare is going to have a new face up to bat every single time. When you're up 14 runs, you definitely have that flexibility. And it's going to be number 54, the catcher, Ansley Watson, out of Smith Station, Alabama, and Central High School. Ansley also a part of the North Georgia squad last season. This is just her 3rd appearance as a Nighthawk. Played against West Alabama and UNC Pembroke in 2024. This is her first plate appearance as a Nighthawk for this UNG softball program. Both of those appearances against West Alabama and UNC Pembroke were both substitutions where she came in on the infield. And the 2-0 to Watson as she keeps us in the infield. Flip to second. Doesn't get there on time. Bases are still loaded. And Ansley Watson puts another run up on the board here for the Nighthawks. Now a 15-0 lead here for this North Georgia squad. Devin, you really couldn't have asked for a better performance here in this one from the Nighthawks.
No, you really couldn't have. I mean, they had the bases loaded with 2 outs and able to get 2 runs out of that. It's just kind of remarkable and just shows, North Georgia and, Lake Erie defensively, they've got to tighten down. They've got to tighten up a little bit.
Nighthawks do reinsert a starter back into the lineup here with Riley Moody. As she takes a strike there from Murray. And Moody, she was one of the highlights for this North Georgia softball team during the Peach Belt Conference tournament. A series a tournament that I think North Georgia, would like to forget at this point. But Moody was one of the best players for them during that time. The out will be made at third, but not before the Nighthawks put on a pair of runs to go up 15-0. All smiles here from the home team, the Nighthawks, as they try to close it out in the top of the 5th inning when we come back on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
No matter how you connect, ETC delivers fast, reliable internet and secure, powerful Wi-Fi choices for your home. For intense gaming, easy sharing, and buffer-free streaming on every device all at once. With local experts ready to help. Connect to faster internet. Connect to awesome Wi-Fi. Connect to now. Call or visit etcnow.com to upgrade your internet today.
The road to national championships runs through NCAA.com. And whether you follow one college team or all of them, it's never been easier to get the content you want with NCAA.com, the home of college sports.
North Georgia softball would like to thank our tournament title sponsor, Mizuno. Choose Mizuno for the best range of unique sports gear today. And in Game 1 of the 2025 Mizuno Invitational, it's been all Nighthawks in this one. The number 8 team in the country making a big statement early here in the 2025 season, up 15-0 over Lake Erie.
Yeah, it's a big statement from North Georgia to drop, because that's just not an easy thing to do, to just drop that many runs, especially getting into the double digits. But it's just been a really impressive showing from North Georgia today. It's going to be a fun matchup coming up next against West Florida. We'll see what they have in store.
West Florida, one of the better programs in Division II softball. As it looks like we're going to have a couple of substitutions that the home plate ump is signaling up to the press box. And why not, if you're in this situation, make some substitutions on the fielding side as well. So North Georgia, not only do you get to see what you have up to bat, but also as they try to close it out here in the top of the 5th inning with their fielding as well.
And this also got to feel good for North Georgia, too. You look back at the game against Lenore-Ryan last year in the Super Regional, getting devastated at home, and then being able to just pound it on their next opponent. You got to imagine you got to be feeling pretty good, especially if you're a returning player from that team.
Yeah, the last time that the Nighthawks were here playing in a game at Haynes and Carolyn Hill was that unfortunate loss to Lenore-Ryan. The Nighthawks were one win away from punching their ticket back to the NCAA championships. Last year it was in Orlando, Florida. This year it's back in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But that's just really a heartbreaking loss for the Nighthawks. And, you know, a lot of the players who were on this team weren't on the team last season, a lot of transfers and freshmen. But a couple of those players definitely wanting to put that loss behind them that were a part of that 2024 team. This is a great way to rebound here in your first game back at the Hill to put up 15 runs on Lake Erie. And this is going to be fouled to push the count to 1-2. And Devin, Lake Erie still with a handful of games still left to play in this one. What sort of adjustments do you think they have to make, you know, with the 3 games left that they have over the course of Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna have to clean up defensively, really. I think a lot of the things. I mean, you know, you're playing one of the best teams in the country, so that results in a problem of its own. But you know, there's just a lot of things you just have to clean up. I think the score could have been a little bit closer, but there's just so many defensive mistakes that Lake Erie had that really led to all these multi-run innings for North Georgia.
The payoff pitch from Connor, this is going to be fouled out of play.
Might be the longest at-bat that any of the Lake Erie players have had so far in this game.
The right fielder Powers, leading off this inning for Lake Erie, grounds this one up the left field line, but it is going to be fouled.
Really impressive, because right now North Georgia holding Lake Erie to a no-hitter.
And the payoff pitch. This is going to be ball 4. It's going to put a runner on first for Lake Erie as they try to spark a little bit of magic here in the top of the 5th inning. It looks like they're going to make another substitution potentially. Does look like CJ Garcia, the starter, back up to bat here for the Storm. I think one of the biggest question marks coming into the season is, we mentioned this at the beginning of the game as well, but you know, the clean house that North Georgia had in their bullpen, all of the pitchers last year were seniors. You know, you had some of the best to ever wear a UNG uniform with Tybee Denton and Kristen Davis, Delaney Heberlin, Sophie Mooney as well in that bullpen for the Nighthawks. And so you had a lot of questions coming into this year to see how the pitching could follow up, you know, what came before them. And I think from what we've seen in the first 4 games of the season in the Gulf Shores Invitational, and then in today's game as well, is that North Georgia's not going to have any issues when it comes to their bullpen this season.
Yeah, and that was the biggest question mark coming into this season, too. and that was going to be the biggest question mark of the season coming in, because we've talked about it throughout the offseason and stuff. Is like, what's the pitching going to look like for the Nighthawks for the softball squad? You had Tybee Denton, you had Kristen Davis, you had Sophie Mooney, as you mentioned. Lockdown pitchers for North Georgia. Helped get us to that win in 2023 in the national championship. So, yeah, it's just really impressive at the mound over the past 2 years. Another strikeout for Caroline Connor. But it's so far, it's kind of the pitching staff that O'Hare and part of it Davenport's brought in has worked so far.
The count's going to be 1-0, another pitcher-on-pitcher matchup here between Connor and Nugent. Nugent pulled from the circle earlier in this game, but another one of those utility players for Lake Erie. Kind of does a little bit of everything for this team as Connor pitches one right down the middle for strike one. And they're going to say that she did not swing, so it looks like it is going to be ball two. The 2-1 from Caroline, and the throw to second does not get there on time, and it's going to be a stolen base for Lake Erie. I believe their first of the game to put a runner in scoring position.
Very few times at Lake Erie. I mean, they haven't registered a hit yet today, and hoping to at least put something up on the board to show for it against North Georgia.
And the 3-1 from Connor. This is going to be inside for strike two. The count is going to be full. I think Nugent thought that may have been strike three. She was halfway back to the dugout there. But she'll get another crack at it here. And the payoff pitch. And this is going to be strike three. Connor dealing here to give us out number two. And that's going to bring the left fielder Sydney Thomas up to bat. The last opportunity here for Lake Erie to put a run up on the board. This is going to be outside for ball one from Connor. And the 1-0 right down the middle for strike one. It's got a pinch runner on second for Lake Erie. That's Lippiat over there on second. Count's evened up at 1-1. Here comes a pitch from Caroline. A big swing and a miss. It's going to give us a 1-2 count. Lake Erie down to their final strike here in this one. And the 1-2. Strike three. Caroline Connor absolutely dealing. And that is going to do it here in this game. The Nighthawks dominate 15-0 in their first game at the Hill. Everything was clicking here for North Georgia in this matchup. A 15-0 win and a combined no-hitter between Angelina Badalament and Caroline Connor in this game. Devin, you couldn't have asked for anything better here from this North Georgia team.
No, you really couldn't. I mean, this is the performance you wanted to see out of them. Now, was that the performance you were going to necessarily expect, this dominant? Not sure, but, this is really good by North Georgia to really just lay it out. Their first home game since the Super Regional last year. And I thought that was pretty fitting, that last strikeout from Caroline Connor. I think it was just kind of the summary of the day, shutting down Lake Erie at any chance that they had and holding them to a no-hitter. So you got to be feeling pretty good about yourselves heading into a game against West Florida coming up.
13 hits for the Nighthawks in this one. A flurry of players with multiple hits in this one. Carly Knowles with 3 hits here in Game 1 when a perfect 3 for 3 at the plate. She was the biggest star up to bat out of a handful of superstars for North Georgia batting in this one. And as we mentioned, that combo, lethal combo, I should say, of Angelina Badalament and Caroline Connor pitching a combined no-hitter and a shutout here against Lake Erie in Game 1 of the Mizuno Invitational. We've got a fantastic game coming up for you here on the Nighthawk Sports Network between North Georgia and West Florida, coming up in about 30 minutes right back here on the NSN. On behalf of Devin Kupka and the rest of the NSN team, this is Robert D. Clemente signing off for now. Nighthawks win Game 1 big, 15